Welcome to another episode of How to Adult with Travis Walker. Today I brought on a very special guest. I know her from high school. She is out there thriving as a single mom, and today we're learning all about single motherhood. And this incredible guest, her name is Savannah Love. She is a nurse. She has two daughters. They're amazing. And so in this episode, we really just dive into all of the things that single moms think about, all the things that we can learn. I learned so much from Savannah's story. I learned so much of how she views family and how she approaches family. It's so good. So get excited. We are going to get into the show in just a moment. But first, make sure that you're sharing the episode. If you're listening to the episode, share the episode. Very simple. It's not that complicated. So go share the episode. And also, if you're interested in sponsoring an episode, let me know. Let's work something out and let's sponsor this episode. With all that being said, y'all, let's get into the show and learn how to adult. All right, Savannah, welcome to the How to Adult podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here.
Awesome. I am so excited. I follow you on social media, so I see how amazing you are, right? But I think that's just the face surface, right? There's so much more, and especially considering that you're a single mom, I feel like we have so much to learn from you.
Yes, people only share what they want to on social media, so.
Right. I know you're a big advocate for that, right? You only get to see the perfect side of things on social media.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So before we start getting into the questions that I have for you, I just kind of really quick want to get to know you. What's your age? What's your location? What do you do for work? Just so people can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. So I am 24. I'm from Texas, and I currently live in Nebraska, in Omaha, and I'm an ER nurse. I just finished out a travel contract at one of the ERs here, and I've been a nurse for going on 3 years now. So,
wow, that's great. Can you share a short, crazy story about being an ER nurse?
Oh my, that would
take the rest of the show.
And it's always something crazy. We in one day, in one 12-hour shift, we'll see a lot of really sad things and a lot of really crazy, funny things, and a lot of really disgusting things. There's one of my favorite stories that I like to tell, which I try to, you have to be careful with how you word things because of, confidentiality and stuff. But
sure.
He took care of a coworker's family member. One time she came in and she had a massive heart attack, and she basically had passed away at home. And so they brought her in, and we were working on her, basically trying to restart her heart. And her daughter, our coworker, came in and was sitting there in the room watching us, code her and everything. And I told her to come over and grab her hand. And as soon as she grabbed her hand, her mom's heart started again.
Oh my gosh.
I get chills right now just thinking of it. And she did end up passing away a couple of days later, but we got her up to the cath lab, and I actually rode on top of her, straddled her, and was doing chest compressions while my tears were dripping down on her face, and
wow.
trying to keep her blood flowing and stuff. And we got her up to the cath lab, and she did unfortunately end up passing away. She stayed on the vent the whole time in the ICU, but she lived long enough to where, her family from out of town and stuff could come in and say their goodbyes. And, they were able to kind of have that closure instead of it just being an immediate, thing. So, but that's probably
wow.
Work story to tell. It's it really, a year later it still brings me to tears. So
right. I got chills when you said that. That's insane. Wow. I know nurses are doing amazing work, and they have been doing amazing work for years and years and years. So just from me to you, I appreciate you. I appreciate nurses. It's just amazing everything that y'all do. So thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. I know it's not like a piece of change in the bucket, but it's all right. So we're here to talk about single moms and single mom experiences. You're a single mom. And so just so that we can kind of understand your scenario, what's the makeup of your family? Obviously, there's you. What else is going on in that family of yours?
So I have a 6-year-old daughter named Sutton. She's my best friend in the world. I was very young when I had her. I was 18, and I was college. I'd just finished my first semester of college. So she pretty much grew up with me. She watched me go through college. She watched me go through nursing school. She has literally been here since I was, a fresh, brand new adult. So we have a different bond just because, we got to grow up together. She watched me struggle and she watched me, come up and become what I am now. And then I just had a month ago, I had another little girl named Monroe. Her name's Monroe Juliet. We call her MJ. And
Yes.
yeah, she got here a month ago, and I was actually super duper scared to have her because it had been just Sutton and I for so long, and we're so close. And I was like, oh my gosh, how is she going to respond to the baby being here? She's so used to it just being the two of us, and but she's done so good. She's adjusted so well. She's the best big sister, loves her baby sister, obsessed. So
Yeah.
it's gone really good. So my two girls, it's us three.
Wow, you just got a little lady pack. I love that. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So, I've loved watching from social media. Obviously, I've loved watching Sutton grow up. It's just she's growing up into such an awesome little kid. So, great job with her.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I think you're in the perfect position to inspire single moms out there because you have your daughter that just got out of kindergarten, right, Sutton?
I went to kindergarten yesterday, actually. Yes.
Oh my gosh, what an accomplishment. And then you also have got Monroe. So to me, that means you have already succeeded as a single mom and you're still continuing that journey as a single mom. So I think there's a lot that we can learn. And so do you have a lot of single mom friends, or are you kind of the single mom in your friend group?
I do actually. I have a lot of single mom friends, and it's funny because, being as young as I was when I had Sutton, I didn't have a lot of friends in real life that were going through the same thing I did. I didn't have, a lot of friends that were pregnant or that were having babies because, I was young and they shouldn't have been having babies that young anyway. And so I actually made a lot of friends through social media that I've kept up with for years now. I mean, since since I was pregnant with Sutton. So it's been pretty cool. My best friend that lives in the city that I live in now, she actually is someone that I met through Twitter about 6 years ago. And we just stayed very, very close friends. And about 2 years ago, I flew to Omaha for the first time to see her. And ever since then, we've gotten closer, and we pretty much raise our kids together now. So it's so she's a single mom.
That's awesome.
Yeah. She's engaged now, and her fiance is fantastic. He treats her kid like she's his own, and honestly treats my kids like they're his own also. But yeah,
wow.
Single mom, and I do have a lot of friends that are single moms too, that are fantastic and killing the game just like I am. So
yeah, honestly. So let's rewind a little bit. Kind of, I guess I'm not sure exactly when it is in the story, but I'm assuming that it's with Sutton. So when you first found out, or you learned, or you start to see the writing on the wall that you're going to be a single mom, you knew that it was going to happen. What were the feelings that you were going through in that, kind of the transition in that sense?
I was scared mostly. Her dad and I were together until she was just over 2. We had split up one time before when she was a year old, but I was in nursing school and part-time at that time. So I didn't have any money, and I didn't, I was scared because I still had so much school left. And without getting, too deep into the personal stuff, I was very scared of what was to come as far as, court was concerned and her safety was concerned and things like that. thankfully I have an amazing family. I have
Hmm.
an awesome support system. So I honestly don't think that I could have gotten myself out of that situation if I did not have the support that I do. And I feel like a lot of times, it's so easy for people to just say, well, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just get out of that situation if it's not good for you? But it takes so much support to even have the confidence to do that and feel safe
Hmm.
to do that. And so a lot of people get stuck in these bad situations because they don't have the support that I thankfully, was able to have. So,
Wow. Yeah, I can totally see that, and I can only imagine the amount of fear, the amount of anxiety when you start to see that writing on the wall that this is could be your new life. I'm sure that there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. Was there any anxiety that you had during that time that you found wasn't true, or maybe wasn't as hard for you to figure out? People have anxiety, and it almost dwindles away as you start to figure out and go through the journey. Was there anything for you that was you were anxious about, but didn't really turn out to be true? What was your experience?
um, I guess just knowing that I was doing things alone was very scary. And it's hard to imagine that everything's going to be okay when you're going through it or when you're about to go through it. You have all these thoughts in your head and you're like, how am I going to do this by myself? How am I going to go to school? And how am I going to finish, this, and that? And how will I do this by myself? And then, you just take that jump and you just do it. And it just, you just do what you have to do. And honestly, I get messages a lot from people. I try to respond most of the time. Sometimes I just can't. But
Yeah.
we get a lot of messages saying, how did you do it? How did you go to nursing school as a single mom? And honestly, sometimes my answer is just, I just did it. Like there's just there's no real secret behind anything. I just knew that I had to do it and I just did it. And, it was hard for a while and nursing school is not easy for sure. Um,
Right.
but I knew that that's what I wanted. And I knew that that's the life that I wanted for my daughter. And I don't regret it for a second. I love my job and, my profession means everything to me. It's probably third in my life behind my two girls. And so yeah, I think I was mostly scared about school and about, failing basically. And you just have to push through it pretty much and just realize that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and that even though things are hard right now, it's not going to keep being hard forever. So,
Right. Right. No, I completely agree with you. And I can actually connect to that because once other people found out that Amber and I were going to have twins, they were like, how are you going to do it? And we were like, we don't have a choice. Like you just do it.
no, exactly. Just the other day, I had taken both the girls out for breakfast and it was just me and the girls like it always is. And the waitress came up to us and said, you're so brave for taking your two girls out. How do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a choice. It's literally me and my daughters. There's no other choice. So yeah, that's definitely can
That
relate to that. Not, it is what it is. This is my life.
Right. That's so interesting that you bring that up because, other people looking in, they see how hard it is. And I don't really understand that. Why do you think people from the outside look in and, I don't know, doubt us in the sense of getting it done or just doing the darn thing? What do you think that question comes from, or that comment that waitress gave you?
I don't know. I think a lot of times, I think they mean it as a compliment and basically
Sure.
like you're tough, and just like if someone sees you guys in public and sees you wrangling the twins and stuff, they're like, oh, how do you do it? And they mean it in a positive, you're very strong and that's really awesome type of way. But sometimes it's like, why would you ask me that? Why, like, have a choice? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I
Right.
take it negatively. I know that people mean well and they're never just trying to, they're never trying to be, anything but nice about it. So,
Right. Right. Totally. So you've already kind of hinted at this a few times with your family and your friends, but we always hear that it takes a village to raise kids. We hear that over and over again. What does your support system look like, and how important is that specifically to a single mom perspective? So I know like some moms, like when they have their kids, they like turn off. They don't want to help. They don't want help because they want to prove themselves as a mother. But how important is that support system? What does yours look like? How important is it? And why does it affect single moms more so than other moms?
That's an awesome question. I know that as a mom, a lot of moms deal with a lot of mom guilt. I think as a single mom, it kind of amplifies. My support system for both girls looks a lot different because, sorry, my daughter's crying.
That's okay.
As a single mom with Sutton, when I was still in nursing school, I relied very, very heavily on my family, which I really am not the type to go out and do things. I don't go out and drink, things like that. So really, I just would rely on them when I had to go to school or when I had to go to work, or for a while when I lived in Texas, I lived probably 5 minutes or less down the road from my mom and teacher, and Sutton was in pre-K at the same school that she taught at. So I was working days, so I'd work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then I had an hour drive, almost an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I would drop her off early in the morning. My mom would bring her with her to school. She would spend the day at pre-K, and then she would ride home with her after school. And my mom would keep her for a few more hours until I got home. And that's what my days looked like whenever I worked. And then with this baby, things are significantly different for me because I've moved and my whole support system has changed. I still have support for my family emotionally, but they're halfway across the country, so it's different.
Sure.
Fortunately, I haven't had to go back to work yet, but I will soon. But when I was pregnant with, and then, Sutton was in kindergarten, I worked 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. shifts for the most part. There were a few different shifts, but for the most part, I worked afternoons and evenings. And so I would drop Sutton off at school in the morning, come home and try to sleep a little bit. I was pregnant at the time, so I would come home and try to sleep, and then I would go to work, and I would get off around 4 a.m. I would come home, go to sleep, and wake up at like 7:30, go pick Sutton up from my friend's house where she stayed the night after she got off school, and I would take her to school again. And so that's pretty much how things worked. And my friend it was always like, I can take Sutton to school. It's not a big deal. And this is kind of where, the whole independence and trying to prove yourself comes from, because, she would always say, I can take her to school. You don't have to get up, after only sleeping for an hour or so. You don't have to get back up and come take Sutton. But I was so almost prideful, but it was more of kind of like a mom guilt thing for me, where,
Sure,
I'd already uprooted her and changed her whole life. And I was already working a lot and she wasn't seeing me as much. And so I would just do what I could, to see her even for a few minutes in the mornings before I dropped her off at school and things like that. And so, but I've really, really had to work on the pride thing for sure, and trying to prove myself and trying to, be all these things and have a million hands instead of just focusing on the two hands that I have, and, just doing what I could with the time that I had.
right.
But yeah, I mean, I could not be more thankful for the support system that I have, in both situations. It's completely different, but I mean, now my daughters are both loved by so many people here in Nebraska. We have a little chosen family, like I'd said earlier, where, my best friend lives here, her best friend and her sister that I've gotten very close to also. And then my best friend's fiance He's kind of taken all three of our kids on as his own. We always joke and say that he's my kid's stepdad. and,
Oh my gosh. Shout out to this guy. Whoever he is, he's amazing. I wanna be his friend.
yes, fantastic. And my friend Haley is absolutely fantastic. Her sister. I mean, I if there was, you know, if there was any way that I could pick a better situation, I really don't think that I could.
Sure.
And, of course, being around your family is the most important thing, but they're honestly the next best thing. And I could not be more thankful for the situation that I'm in now. So.
Amen. Amen. That's incredible. That's inspiring. So knowing that you had Sutton at 18, do you I hear this a lot as well in the terms of having to grow up too fast or missing out on things that you otherwise wouldn't have missed out on. Did you have any of those feelings? And if so, how did you work through those feelings?
So it was a little bit different for me because I am 13 years older than my brother. So when my little brother was born, I'm the oldest sibling. And so I kind of took on the second little mama bear role for him. So it was already kind of normal for me to have that like maternal, persona about me.
Yeah.
And I already kind of wasn't really like when I was in high school, I didn't drink. I didn't go to parties or do anything like that. I kind of just did my own thing. And,
Can confirm.
It wasn't really hard for me. It wasn't really something I had to give up. It was a little bit hard being in college and not being able to, go out with my friends and do things. I can count on half of a hand how many times I went out with my friends in college just because, I had a baby and, but I don't really feel like it was a whole lot that I missed out on because that's just not really my personality anyways. And nowadays I do, I like to do things here and there every now and then, but I'm more of a low key. I like to go outside and go to the pool and things like that more than anything else. So I don't really feel like I'm missing out a whole lot on the young things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And kind of sticking with that same theme, have you ever or maybe you've received judgment? Have you ever been judged based on being a young mom or being a single mom? What does that look like, and how do you work through that?
That honestly is one of the hardest things I've had to deal with. Because becoming a young mom, obviously people are going to judge you regardless. And so that's something that I'm used to. And then being a single mom of two now I feel like in my brain, I get more judgment than I really do. But like I've said before, I am very, very hard on myself. And so I'm just constantly, I've had to try to let go of what other people think and just try to be the best that I can be for my girls and, not worry too much about what other people say. And I feel like I judge myself a lot too, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I might judge myself more than other people judge me, to be honest. Just because, I have a lot of, I carry a lot of like, I should have done this differently, or I shouldn't have done this, or, but then I have to stop myself and think, I have the two most perfect girls. And I did, there were some choices that I made that I should have thought more about before I made those choices. But if I didn't make those choices, then I would not have the two amazing, perfect girls that I have. And I just have to accept things for how they are and just keep going,
Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. I can totally see that. Oh, I'm learning. I'm not a single mom, but I'm learning from you, darn it. Let's see. So I think a big elephant in the room that I'm sure a lot of listeners are thinking about is the financial sense of things. So how did you navigate the financial, I don't want to say burden, but the financial responsibility as a single mom with all the necessities, daycare, diapers. How did you navigate that area, financial specifically?
Right. So, when I was young and when I was a single mom with Sutton, I was able to rely on my family a lot. So when I was finishing nursing school, I had moved in with my aunt. She lived about an hour away from the university that I went to. And so I lived with her, and she didn't charge me anything to live there. And I basically would babysit her kids and clean her house and cook for them. I cooked for them, I mean, probably half the week. I would
Mm-hmm.
make meals for them and stuff, and just try to do anything that I could to help out and earn my keep there pretty much. And so that's how I was able to, have somewhere to live and provide stability for Sutton. And once I finished nursing school, I briefly moved in with my mom while I was looking for my own place. So I lived with her for a few months, and then this house came up that just happened to kind of fall at my feet. At that point, I'd been working for probably 4 or 5 months as a nurse, so I was able to save some money and found this house, and it was perfect. It was little bitty, perfect for Sutton and I. And so I was able to buy a house with a first time buyer's loan where I didn't have to put a big chunk of money down. My aunt is a real estate agent, so she helped with that too. And she helped, get me deals and things like that. And so it just kind of worked out perfectly where I didn't have to put forth a big chunk of money, and I was able to buy a house and have something that was, stable for my daughter and I. The mortgage was it was less than $700 a month. And so that's how I did that. And
Wow.
yeah, so, and that's where we stayed until I moved here, which was a huge financial burden, planning for a new baby and things like that. But I thankfully was able to get a contract through a travel agency. And rates were very high at that point because of COVID and stuff. And so I was able to make probably 3 times more than I made at my staff nurse job back home in Texas.
Wow.
That's how I was able to, save money and prepare for the baby and take care of the girls by myself. Um, yeah, that's pretty much how I.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was able to finish school without loans. Thankfully, I got a scholarship, and then I got the Pell Grant too. So that covered all my tuition. So I didn't have any student loans or anything when I finished college. So that was one less thing that I had to worry about.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. It seems like just things fell into place.
It,
That's awesome.
it just blows my mind, each thing that's fallen into place, even, with when the contract started with my job, and it ended, a couple of days before I gave birth to this little girl. It all just happens so perfectly that there's no way that it was not meant to be the way that it is.
Oh yeah, I feel the same way about we recently moved across Texas, but things just fell into place, and when things just fall into place, to me that means you're doing the right thing.
Right.
Have you had the same experience with that?
With what? I'm sorry.
With things just falling into place, does that
Oh,
make you feel like you're making the right decision?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Whenever, actually a few things fell into place majorly with this whole situation that I've been put in. I'm trying to get my phone set up. I had to plug it in.
That's perfect.
Yes. So I, like I said, I got this travel contract, and I was able to start within literally the perfect amount of time in order to be able to finish it before I gave birth. I was supposed to have about a week or two after I finished working to, kind of be home and prepare for the baby and everything, but she ended up coming early, but I still was able to finish work before then. She
Yeah.
came 2 days after I stopped working, and then my mom actually got to be here for her birth. we did not expect that. She had booked some tickets way ahead in advance back in January for Easter weekend because she had some time off for work, and she flew here, and I went into labor the next day. So she got to be here for the birth and everything, but she wouldn't have been able to be here regardless, otherwise. So it
I
just,
love that.
little tiny things that fall into place, and it's like, okay, this obviously is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible. I think another question that I have is, I'm watching my wife become a mom for the first time, and it's been incredible to watch her go through that transition, that process. So I'm interested, when you became a mom for the first time, how'd you navigate becoming a mom? Or maybe I think the single mom thing happened later. So how was your transition from having a support partner to not? What was that transition like?
um I wouldn't say I really ever had a supportive partner. um
Oh, okay. Sorry.
there were, no, that's okay. We were together, but I was more of, I was getting up with her by myself at night, and which, I breastfed, so there was really nothing that her dad could do anyway. And so, but it kind of went from, I'm going to have this baby to I have this baby and I'm pretty much doing things by myself, regardless. And so whenever I finally left, it was kind of, it was nerve wracking, but at the same time, I was telling myself, well, I'm already pretty much doing things by myself anyways.
Right.
Um, so the transition, I wouldn't say was super hard as far as, having a partner versus not, because there was a lot more peace when I did not have a partner,
Mm.
versus when I did, as far as, the arguments and things like that. And I just always tell people, I have a lot of women that reach out to me, and they're like, I'm with my partner, and he's, abusive, or he is physically abusive or emotionally abusive or whatever it is. And they're like,
Hmm.
I don't know what to do. I don't know how to go from, having a 2-parent household to it being only me. And I always say, it's worth it for sure. Because it seems like it's going to be damaging to the kid to be raised in, a single parent household. But honestly, that's so much better than growing up and seeing chaos and, arguing and unhappiness and things like that. I always tell people, I'm like, your kids deserve a happy mom regardless. And,
Mm.
um, whatever that looks like, whatever you have to do to give that to them, to give them a happy mom, that's what they need. They don't need a 2-parent household if it's toxic. They don't need, they don't need a relationship with the other parent if they're not a good person, and if they're a toxic person. They need someone that is going to take care of them, that's in a good headspace and is happy. And it's your job to provide that for them. You can only control yourself and your own happiness. You can't control how someone else is going to treat you or how someone else is going to treat your kid. So you just have to focus on, I need to be the best version of myself in order to parent my kids the way that they deserve. So,
Oh my gosh. Mic drop. Goodness gracious. That was so good. So sticking with that same theme of peace, you said that word peace, and I think that's really important. How do you approach also taking care of yourself through all of this? Your needs as a human, your needs as a young human. How do you take care of yourself while also taking care of your two girls at the same time?
so that's pretty hard. Definitely still hard for me since the baby is so young. Because she's only a month, and so it definitely is hard as a single mom, and with my kids still being in school and things like that. It is hard to find time for yourself and do things for yourself. But I will say that I'm very lucky because my baby is very, very well behaved, and I know that not everyone gets that luxury. um,
Oh yeah.
but honestly, I can take her in public and she'll sleep the entire time, as long as I nurse her beforehand. And sometimes I'll step off and nurse her somewhere, while we're out or whatever. But I'm able to, go get my nails done or go, there was, I went and got my hair done, and I was there for like 3 hours, and she slept the entire time. So it was really, I've been able to kind of force myself to do things for myself, because otherwise I'll just go crazy if I'm not taking care of myself too. But
Yeah.
even, and people say all the time, new moms, and I know I went through this too, but new moms are like, well, I can't even shower without the baby crying, or I can't even, I can't even do this or that without, the baby crying. I can't get anything done. And, babies can cry, and it is okay for babies to cry. I will, nurse the baby, put her down in her swing, and I'll go take a bath, and I will soak in a hot bath, because that's what makes me feel good. And that's how I can decompress. And if she starts crying, she's going to be okay. She's not going to die crying for a couple of minutes. It's such an instinctual thing to just stop what you're doing and immediately rush to your baby and, make sure that they're okay. Sometimes I'll get out of the bath and I'll bring her binky, and I'll pop her little binky in her mouth, and that'll satisfy her for a little bit. But, it's so easy to just completely ignore yourself and what you need and what you want for your baby. And you know what? My baby is going to grow up, and she's not going to remember, hey, my mom was taking a bath and I was crying for 3 minutes. That's so messed up. She's
Right.
going to remember, hey, my mom was taking care of herself and she was happy. And so she was able to, be happy taking care of me, because she was taken care of also. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a quick transition that Amber and I have had to make of it's okay if they cry for a little bit.
Absolutely.
And we're getting better and better at it, but it is like kind of abnormal at first to just let the baby cry for a little while.
And then sometimes you'll take a shower and you'll be like, what was that? Is the baby crying? And the baby's sound asleep, but in your brain, you hear your baby crying. So.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The brain is crazy in that sense.
Yes.
So also sticking with it, I'm going to stick with the theme of you as an individual for a few more minutes. I don't know if this is true for you or not, but I'm curious. Do you have a desire for a partner, and how does, if you do have a desire to have a partner, how is it more complex searching for that partner while you have children? I'm interested in kind of that aspect of life as well.
So right now, it's not really a goal of mine, if that makes sense, to go out and find a life partner. It's not.
Sure.
My life and my family is complete in my brain right now. I don't feel like I'm missing a partner. I don't feel like I need that type of help, because I feel like I've got it by myself, I eventually, I want to start dating again eventually. And I want to, find people that make me laugh. And, it's not right now, to me, that's not in my near future. Maybe my far away future, but right now, I'm satisfied taking care of my kids, and I'm really just looking to go back to work. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does make dating a little bit weird and a little bit difficult, because, on one hand, you're like, okay, I want things to be light. I don't want to like immediately be looking for someone that could fit in with my kids and things like that. You don't want to put that type of pressure on casual dating, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to waste this person's time if I can't see them, filling that role. So it kind of makes things weird, because you're like, you don't want to put too many expectations on things, but at the same time, if that were to progress and move further, you would want them to be someone that you would be comfortable around your kids.
Right.
Yeah. So it definitely does make dating a little bit weird. And I feel like a lot of people want to rush into, oh, let me meet your kid. Or, from past experience, people that I've dated, they're like, well, let me meet Sutton. I want to meet Sutton. She's important to you. And I'm like, okay, no, first of all, no, you're not meeting my precious angel. She's like a diamond that I just protect from everybody. I'm like, I don't want you around my children whatsoever. And I don't know, it's like, you want to protect your kids just in case something happens,
Right.
but you also don't want to like keep that person from your kids forever, because you have to know how they're going to interact with your kids and stuff. So I don't know. I think it's situational. It depends on the situation. It's different for each and every single person, what they're comfortable with, and, what's okay for them, and how they feel a certain person is going to be around or treat their kids. And I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, because my ex did meet my daughter. And that was really hard for me, was not only he and I breaking up, but my kid being confused. And so that's
Right.
definitely something that I don't want her to have to experience, multiple times. So I think for me, I don't know how I'll feel once I do start dating, but I'm kind of setting rules for myself where, we have to be together for X amount of time before you're able to meet my kids, or,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And like I said, that's going to be different for everybody. It'll look different for every single situation. So yeah, I guess it just would just depend on, what you're comfortable with. So
Yeah, I mean that, and jumping back a few minutes, just it's so refreshing to hear your satisfaction with your family is complete now. That is such a powerful statement, and I'm sure it took some time to get to that point of mentally being satisfied and knowing that your family is full where you're at.
right.
That's great. That's just incredibly impactful. Sticking with that same theme of the future, right? Dating's in the future. Do you think of, or really give any mind to, your kid's future, in the sense of, maybe dad not being present, maybe any concerns that, any impact that might have of not having a father present? Have you thought about that at all? And is that something you're concerned about? I'm sure people out there think about it, so I wanted to address it.
I think about that every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. And I actually have had an experience with both situations, kind of, because as a kid, my parents split up before I was born, and I was my dad's only child. And he passed away 2 years ago in August.
Wow.
But he was really pretty hands off my whole childhood. There were times when I was younger where I would go visit him, and we always had a good relationship. He wasn't ever mean. He wasn't that type of person, but he just was irresponsible, and he just didn't know how to be a father. So he was pretty absent as I grew up. I think that caused a lot of a lot of the issues that I have now as an adult, that I'm to work through. But I also, my mom was married to a man for over 10 years, and he was very emotionally abusive, and very, I grew up seeing a lot of toxicity. And this is not, a knock at my mom whatsoever, because she's an incredible woman, and she's done, I mean, she has done everything for me and my siblings. But she was married for a while to my ex stepdad, and he was not a nice person. There was a lot of toxicity in that house. And the older that I got, the more I saw it, and it affected me a lot too. And so
Right.
I think, I think back, and I'm in therapy. I actually see two therapists, and I have an appointment with one of them later on today. And so we've kind of been going through my childhood and stuff. And I do think that my dad being absent impacted me significantly, but I think that witnessing all of the abuse and all of the toxicity and stuff in my home with my mom and stepdad affected
Mm-hmm.
me significantly more. And
Wow.
so I fortunately and unfortunately got to see both situations. And now I think, with my girls, would I rather them see the toxicity and, have to hear me cry, and have to hear, someone belittling me and being mean to me, and, screaming at me and things like that? Would I rather that, or would I rather them grow up in a home with only a mom, but a happy mom, you
Mm.
know? And I just, I've struggled a lot, especially with Monroe's dad, with this situation where, I want her to have a relationship with her father, because every kid deserves that, I feel like. But I also don't want to force someone to be something that they're not willing to be on their own, you know.
Right.
So that's pretty much where we're at with that. And I'm trying not to get like too too detailed in
That's
the
fine.
situation, you know.
No,
But yeah, I've been able to see both, and to me, it's worth being alone and raising kids alone. It's 100% worth it to keep
yeah.
protect them and them not grow up seeing their mom, you know, being treated that way. So
That's totally fair, and this is a very private side of your life. So I really appreciate you sharing this. I think a lot of people are going to learn from you. If anything, I've learned from you. So I appreciate you sharing what you're willing to share. That's fantastic. I want to end on a happier note, though. Let's end on a happy note.
okay,
I think I feel like we all need that. So I want to know, what is the best thing about being a single mom? What is the best thing about being a single mom?
just watching your little baby's personality develop and watching them do amazing things and knowing that they're a great person because of you, pretty much.
Wow.
Without taking much ownership over, you know, their own personalities and their own accomplishments and things. Literally just this morning, I took Sutton to school. She got up a little bit early today, which is not very common for her. Most of the time, she doesn't want to wake up in the mornings, but a little bit early, and we came downstairs, and we got dressed and ready for school and stuff, and we left the house, and I came back. And I went into the kitchen to go make my coffee, and I realized that she had already made my coffee for me.
Oh my gosh.
I have a Keurig, so she put the little pod in there, and my coffee was sitting there waiting for me, and it already had the cream and the sugar in it exactly how I like it, and it just the tiniest little things, and you're like, that is the kindest thing. She didn't have to do that. She just thought, hey, my mom needs some coffee this morning. I'm going to make it for her so she doesn't have to make it. And she just like knowing the attention to detail that she just pays so much attention to the little things, how much sugar I like in my coffee, and, things like that. And just the kindness that just the tiny little things. And you're like, you know what? It's hard, but I'm obviously doing something right because my kid, is so thoughtful, just the tiniest little things. And you're like, that is 100% because I've taught her to be the kind person that she is, nobody
Wow.
else. That was me. And so that's pretty cool. Yeah. I would say that's probably the best part about motherhood in general. So especially single motherhood is like, watching your kids be empathetic and kind and, watch them make generous gestures and things like that, and just know that you're doing something right, obviously.
Amen. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go cry now. So that was a beautiful story. So we're closing in on the end of the show, and we both got to get back to our babies. So I'm interested in that final piece of advice, or that final piece of motivation or inspiration to the single moms out there. What would you close on? What would you say is the most important thing?
I would say just do it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
100% worth it. If you're unhappy in your situation that you're in, then you have the power to change it. You can do it. Looking back now, being a single mom for almost 5 years now of my kids' 6 years of life, I was scared looking forward and knowing everything that I was going to have to face and knowing the judgment that I was going to have to face. But now that I'm here looking back, it was all worth it. And I'm so happy and proud of myself for doing what I've done. And, you can still go to school. You can still be successful. You can still, move on and have a happy life. And, you can have a house and have peace and happiness with your family. And your family doesn't have to be a mom, a dad, and a kid. It can be a mom and a kid. That can be your entire family, And, you know, before the baby came, my family was, you know, my immediate family was me and Sutton. We were a family. And that's
Right.
that whole in and of itself. It wasn't missing a piece. And, you know, now that MJ is here, I'm like, well, obviously it was missing a piece because here she is and she, you know, she fits in perfectly. But, you know, it being just you and your kids does not mean that it's missing something, or that, you know, your kids are going without or anything, because you can do everything that anybody else can do by yourself.
Wow. I know I'm inspired, so I'm sure anyone that listens to this is going to be incredibly inspired. So if people want to go, you know, follow you and follow your story, I don't know if you allow people to do that or not, but where should they go if you do allow it?
Any social media. I have Twitter and I have Instagram. My Twitter's a little, I say a lot of stupid stuff on there, mostly being funny or saying stupid stuff. But, you know, I do open up some on there, and sometimes I will talk about my situation. And, you know, like I told you before the podcast started, I tend to overshare sometimes. So there's a lot of that. That probably would be the place to get the most honest version of me. And then of course, Instagram, I'm sharing pictures and things like that. But, you know, just like anybody else, there's things that I leave off of my social media. There's things that, you know, I highlight on my social media. So honestly, nothing is ever real that you read. It's all just like a pretty up version of, you know, of real life. So.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. And thank you for always doubling down on social media is not always real. I think that's such an important thing to push out into society. But anyways, go follow Savannah. Go follow the podcast at How to Adult TW on Instagram and Facebook. We are going to have the best day ever because that's what we do. And we will continue to learn how to adult together.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah.